Hello everyone, this is Suike Novus here, still not finally, I don't know why I keep saying that, but I'm back again to continue playing Hyperdimension Neptune. In this chapter, we're actually finally going to leave Planeptune, which we didn't actually spend that much time here anyway, and we're headed to LaStation, which actually houses one of my, if not my favorite character in the game. So, I mentioned before that there's not really a world map to this game, or I may not have mentioned it, but there's not a world map to this game. The way that you get to the four different sections, four different lands, is by a small little dungeon that you run through in between. Um, yeah, there's not very much to it. It's populated by low-level monsters, so you should be able to handle it even this early on in the game. Also, I switched out to running around using IF-Chan this time. Well, IF instead of using Neptune like I did last time. I'm going to be switching through each individual character so that you're not seeing the same person running through each individual dungeon. I'm also skipping most of the animations now just to save myself a lot of time because if I went through every single one of these animations, this Let's Play would be incredibly long. So there's not really too much to say here, except pretty much what you see going on the screen. Yeah, you're going to watch IF run a lot because I actually recorded a good amount of this episode. I'm only recording 30-minute increments, but I recorded the whole entire, well, never mind. I'll get to that later. Welcome to LaStation. LaStation is supposedly very steampunky, which is funny because outside of this and the overworld map, well, not even the map, but the overworld, I guess, area that it shows you, you don't really see too much steampunk. It's everywhere still pretty much the factories and dungeons that you're already used to seeing at this point. Land of Black Legality, LaStation, which obviously this represents PlayStation, which is actually a lot of games on the PlayStation were very steampunky, so yeah, I would give it that. So, first thing we're going to do is we're going to visit the Basilicom. And the Basilicom, as we found out, is a little different than the Basilicom on Planeptune. It's kind of funny that Neptune calls this place steampunky, spiffy, and futuristic because in comparison to Planeptune, it's not all that futuristic, not at all. And they do mention something saying that each land has a theme, and that's actually quite true. Every land does have a theme. We're going to see four different themes. Planeptune is very futuristic. LaStation is going to be very industrial and steampunky. Then we're going to come across to Leanbox, which I will explain when we get to that section, and Laui, which we'll explain when we get there as well. Yeah, there's not really a ton that I need to explain, so I'm just letting it ride. So, first thing that you're going to do is you're going to visit the Basilicom and try to get some information on where to find the key fragment, because that's what they're looking for right now. But, sadly, it turns out this guy isn't going to be quite that forthcoming. He actually just turns them away, even though they say don't judge us by our appearance. He still just turns them away. It's one of those reasons why I like IF. She calls things directly as she sees them. Even though she's not my favorite character design, as a matter of fact, she's probably midway, but she calls a lot of things out, and she's pretty much going to keep you grounded throughout the majority of the story because Neptune and Kampa have their heads in the cloud most of the time. Oh, and they will break the fourth wall a lot. They even called him an NPC, so yeah. He's not really important to the story. As a matter of fact, I think you may see him one more time, and then after that you don't see him again. But I guess this is as good a time as any to bring up one of the things I disliked about this game, and it's the fact that, okay, the story gives you a lot of freedom with where you want to go, because you don't necessarily have to go the same path that I'm going in. As a matter of fact, in the very beginning, before I started the recording, it had me set going to Lean Box, and I decided to go to LaStation instead, because that's the way the path I always take. But while this game offers you a lot of story freedom, you can't really explore like main towns. Everywhere that you're going to explore is going to be dungeons, and that's a little meh when you think about it, but that's the game, I guess. And I will be explaining more and more of the story as I get to it, but for right now we're about to meet the person who's going to keep a lot of our plot going, even though you still don't see her sprite. Which, yeah, we still don't see her sprite. Her name is Cheyennes, or Cheyennes, whatever. She owns her own factory, and this place is very industrial, so they make a lot of things, and there's a lot of competition. But, of course, they're being attacked by monsters as well, and it's affecting business, and a lot of businesses are going down in this area, except for pretty much one, which is, well, we'll come to that when we get to it, but this character is the owner of a small company. We're going to be doing a lot of things for her. So while we've never seen her, she's a little important. I'm trying to remember what I showed off in this video, because I'm actually post-commentating this. Okay, I did show off a few abilities in this video. There are 3 abilities that you can use when you're in a dungeon. There's Treasure Search, Monster Call, and Hammer Crash, or Crush. This one, Treasure Search, allows you to find the hidden treasure chests in every single map. And for your first playthrough, I would actually recommend finding every single hidden treasure chest, because a lot of them are equipment. On any other playthrough, you just don't really need to. The thing about Treasure Search is you use it to pinpoint, and you also use it to reveal the treasure chest. So if you get close and you just happen to miss the treasure chest, then you're going to have to wait until your treasure chest cools down so you can use it again. I'm trying to remember if I mentioned talking about the items, but after you defeat every battle, items will drop. And what are they? Oh yeah, for some strange reason, at this point in time, for my last save, it cut my music back down for some strange reason, and I don't know why, so I had to turn it back up at this point. This is the second ability, and I know I just skipped over items, I'll come back to it. And it's Hammer Crash. Hammer Crash has the longest cooldown in the entire game. It's also the one skill you will use the least. That's the upside. The downside is you have to use Hammer Crash. You don't have to use Monster Call, and you don't have to use Treasure Search, but you have to use Hammer Crash, because even the very first dungeon forces you to use Hammer Crash, which you didn't see in this video because this is a New Game Plus. Anyway, going back to the beginning with what I was talking about with items is, after every single boss fight, you're going to see, well, after every single enemy that you fight, they all end up dropping items, and you can actually use these items. And here you see me using the second treasure search so that I can go ahead and find the treasure chest. Most of the items here you're going to see don't really matter, because I'm not going to be using them that often, because I already have defensive. This skill is Monster Call. The Monster Call skill is very useful for 2 different reasons. Number one, in the hunting missions, it allows you to call a whole bunch of monsters so that you don't have to go find them through random encounters. Some of the random encounters and some of the monster hunting missions are really annoying, especially the item drop missions, but thankfully the majority of those are going to be special, so you don't have to worry about them unless you're doing all the side quests. On the other hand, Monster Call also, after you finish the battle, because it's actually a tier battle, you actually have to defeat 3 to 4 different rounds of monsters. After the battle is done, you actually have a period of time where you aren't going to run into any monsters anymore, which is actually really good, because for some of the longer dungeons, you're actually going to end up doing this multiple times, because some of those dungeons do get pretty long. I don't think I've shown this off yet, but this is Neptune's CPU form. You rarely ever see her, but her personality, well, actually, that's not true. You see her a lot in events, but her personality is so different that she actually almost counts as a different character when she's in that form. And here we go, explaining a little bit how the planet works. The CPUs protect the people. As the people stop having faith in the CPUs lose power, and that allows the monsters to get bigger and more powerful and cover more of the land. And it's more of a downward spiral. The more monsters that you get, the less people leave the CPUs, the less power the CPUs have to protect the people. It gets worse and worse and worse. And this is expounded upon, well, it's important here, and it's really important in the next game, but you don't really see how it affects things until the next game. Here we're talking about Avenir, and Avenir is effectively the bad guys of this particular land. They are a company, and you're going to learn a lot more about them, but they're a company that's really pretty much on top of LaStation's economic whatever, the economic food chain, and everyone else is starting to fail because of it. Which, it actually sounds like a few plots to a few different games that were on the PlayStation, but yeah, that's just, you're going to find out more, and it's kind of hard to do this, even though I know it's going to be revealed, without giving too many spoilers. Welcome to Cheyennes Factory. This is one of the 2 times I think you see this section of it. You're going to see the inside, which is where her kitchen is, a whole lot more. You see this a lot more than you see pretty much anywhere else until the key fragments are up, besides the dungeons that you're going to see constantly. So Cheyenne actually works 2 jobs just to stay afloat. She also lives at her business, and that's how bad it is. The goddess and the Basilicom really don't care. Well, it's not that they don't care. We're going to come across why the goddess doesn't do anything later, but the Basilicom doesn't really do anything because the parliament is controlled by whoever. The number of votes that go to the parliament, and they're going to explain this later, but it's easier to explain it now. The number of votes in the parliament determine what's going to happen. So, let's, I don't know, I'm getting tongue-tied here, but essentially, the majority determines what's going to happen with the continent. So, Avenir is actually the majority. They own the largest portion of the area. So, effectively, they control the government. And they can almost force whatever they want to go through. So, this is actually really important, but yeah, it actually affects the story, and it's really important for what's going to go down later on as it goes on. Trying to do this without spoilers, I just want to explain everything all at the same time, and it's a lot harder than you think, especially if you know me. So we're going on another hunting mission so that we can get some materials, or we're going to be doing that. But first, we're going to take a job from Avenir, which is something that Neptune doesn't really agree with, as we're going to find out. IF is actually more of a realist. She's like, hey, we need to eat, so we need the money. But Neptune doesn't really agree with working with Avenir because Avenir isn't... They are the bad guys, essentially. Here's Singe, because it's so much easier to remember. Singe of Avenir. I don't remember what his ranking was within the company. I want to say he's the president, but you're rarely ever going to hear anything. You don't hear from him for a while. He's not the main bad guy. He's a little misguided, actually. And yes, the girls will pick on each other about that a lot. is actually is a main topic. Now, I think this is also another dungeon that I accidentally skipped because I've been through this game multiple times, but it's just a hunting mission now that I think it's just a hunting mission, so it's not very important. This event is actually decently important because it actually explains a little bit about Sinja's personality. He essentially feels that machines are superior to humans because machines don't make mistakes, essentially. He actually sits here and he yells at Compa over it, and they tend not to like him over that. Being human is no excuse for errors. I'm being quiet here because I have nothing to say. Actually, I'm not. I don't not have something to say. I'm just trying to let the story progress before I continue going. And Compa is actually known as the group crybaby. She cries and freaks out more than everyone else. I'm trying to remember if Neptune actually cries. I think Neptune does cry on one occasion. You never see IF cry. Okay, so we also, I think I kind of sort of missed this point before, but I'll talk about it now. There's this big event called the Technology Expo, which is held every 3 years on this land, this continent, this planet, this world, effectively, because each of the different lands is their own encompassed world. The Technology Expo is essentially where everyone shows off their inventions in a certain category, and this year's category is actually weapons, and whoever does the best, they get a gift and they're praised by the Parliament, which is the Basilicom. It's the human side of the Basilicom, and the goddess is actually the one who judged it. In this case, it would be, have we learned her name yet? No, we haven't learned her name yet, so I can't say anything, but here we're finding out that the Technology Expo has been canceled, which is huge. It's nearly impossible for the Technology Expo to be canceled. And the problem with the Technology Expo being canceled is that a lot of companies pull their money through the technology that they show off. And here's where Cheyennes saying the problem is. If they don't show off what they've got, all the other factories are going to be closed down because they can't compete with Avenir anymore. Avenir is getting too big and everyone else is getting run out of business. So Cheyennes going to go into a depression here soon. So we're going to keep going. And we're going to meet another character. This character is actually probably my favorite physical design out of all of the characters. Well, yeah, she's actually my favorite physical design out of all the characters, and I'm actually going to do a list of the characters by their design, their personalities, and their usefulness in battle later on, way at the end after I finish this LP. But I'm just going to go ahead and say that this character has my favorite design out of everyone in the entire game. Hands down, easy. The only person, yeah, she's just got my easy. So essentially, what they came out to this field, what they came out to do is they came out to find this boy who somehow got lost in what looks like to be a field there, but turns out to be a cave somehow. I don't necessarily know. But you go through the cave and nothing really happens. I had to switch to Compa the last time because I used a monster call to finish off that mission because we were hunting down 5 cockatrices. It's a hunting dungeon. Yeah, it doesn't change too much about this game. This game actually does get quite stale, but that's just gameplay wise. The main focus and where this game really shines is in its events. It doesn't take itself seriously, so you can get into the story and you can really enjoy it. But a lot of this game is dungeon crawling and battles, and the battling system doesn't quite feel complete, which I'll go through that when I rank all the characters through battle. And the dungeons, you just spend so much time in the dungeons, they feel stale. You don't even have to grind in this game, but you spend so much time in dungeons, it just feels really, really stale in the end. And don't get me wrong, I like the battle system, but it just feels so stale. At the end of every battle, and I keep missing this point, I don't know why I keep getting distracted, but at the end of every battle, items drop, and it's always 5 items that drop. Those items are used for in-battle item skills. Every character has their own in-battle item skills, and they do different things. But effectively, just to break it down, the most important item skills to remember are going to be your healing item skills, your status item skills, and there's your resurrection item skills. There's 2 different kinds of status item skills. You have ones that buff you and ones that heal debuffs on you. And I'll go over more of that in detail later, but just remember that. The item skills are very important in the beginning of the game. After that, they're really only important for bosses. And Neptune's going to be your main, the people you're going to be modifying the most are actually these 3 right here, Neptune, Compa, and IF. Because Compa and IF are the only ones with resurrection skills, and Neptune has to fight a few solo battles that she will require item skills for. So just to let you know, she will need them. Well, depending on how much you do. Anyway, we got to the end of the dungeon, and we didn't find the boy. But what they're going to notice is they're going to find a boss monster already here, and it's already cut up and beaten up, and they're like, what's going on? And apparently they're used to seeing dead monsters, but they're all still, Compa and Neptune are still all excited whenever they see another dead monster, which is really weird and creepy. But the damage on this monster looks weird. Something that she would expect from Planeptune. Enter this character. And this character is not named at this point in time, but she is very important to the story. We have actually seen her before. If you remember back to the first part where she got into a fight with Neptune along with the other goddesses, this was one of the goddesses, and she was called Blackheart. Why she's question mark now, I don't necessarily know, because they gave away her name at the beginning, but anyway, it's very interesting. It's not very important. She has now noticed Neptune because she saw that Neptune took this job, and she wanted to meet Neptune for some reason. Neptune doesn't remember who she is. So, yeah. She wants to get into it. She's here to fight. And Neptune's like, okay, let's fight. But she doesn't really know what's going on. I actually think this is my very first time. This will actually be the very first time you actually see the transformation sequence. The reason why I'm thrown off by that is because I recorded a bunch of footage that I haven't put out in video yet. I'm not going to put out in a video for a long time. That has transformations in it, but I didn't show Neptune's transformation in that video, so I keep forgetting that I haven't shown it yet. But anyway, this is Neptune ring. However, whenever you hit a boss or anyone who's guard broken with a break skill, and there's 5 break skills, well, there's 4 break skills. There's an extended extinguisher right here that shows up in the very end where you deal extra damage. It's actually a really cool skill, but it's also the one you will get the sick of the most because you will see it the most. You will see it the majority of the game. And I almost want to talk about guard breaking since I brought it up. But I'll probably just save that for the next part. The reason why I don't want to talk about it right now is because it's a long conversation. So anyway, she's surprised. Well, she's surprised that she lost to Neptune. And if you remember, Neptune was supposedly the strongest one out of the four of them way back on Celestia. And so I guess that's actually a viable reasoning. I mean, it's viable that Neptune should have beaten her because she was stronger than them in the first place. And she says flame shots, and she actually does use flame shots, but you rarely ever see them, so it's not really important. And IF is starting to have second thoughts about being on Neptune's side because she just got attacked by someone who's incredibly powerful. And Heretics. Heretics are another part of this game's backstory. I mentioned it before, and I don't think I went too deep into details, but Heretics in this game are people who don't believe in the CPUs of the land of their birth, which I have just explained. This is kind of important because it's sort of interesting. So if a person is born on Planeptune, they are supposed to believe in the CPU of that land, which would be Neptune. If they had love for a different goddess, say, let's say, I can't spill too much. Well, they're actually about to reveal her name. If they believe in Noir from LaStation, then they would be sending power to Noir even though they lived in Planeptune. So it's enough for them to get kicked out. It's one of the worst things in this particular game, or in their society, for you to believe in a different goddess than the land of your birth. But anyway, we're going to find a heretic because we're trying to figure out what's up with this Bachelor, why they aren't helping us that much. Because, hey, we're just trying to do the right thing. Why wouldn't you help us? I'm waiting for this event to pop. So, what Neptune notices is, even though we haven't gotten into a single random encounter here, in this dungeon, apparently there are a ton of monsters packed tightly together, saying that there's more monsters here than there are in any other dungeon. This is kind of important for what's about to happen, because we're actually about to explain where monsters come from in this world, let's say. Which kind of throws out a little bit of where monsters come from. IF said that monsters come from the fact that people aren't believing in their goddesses anymore. And that's not the case. Well, it's partially the case, but it's not completely the case. On the other hand, about this battle system, I do love the fact that you can skip animations, because if you had to watch every animation in this game, oh my goodness, it would triple in length. And they're not super fun to watch. But anyway, we finally found the heretic. It's not like Manichemia's animations, which were awesome. But anyway, Aya thinks that the heretic is on some kinds of drugs. But anyway, the girls have come to ask. The girls are here and they're asking why the Bachelor isn't acting right. And here's the reasoning. The Bachelor is controlled by the Parliament side, which is the human government people side, not the goddess side. And the Parliament side is being controlled by money, effectively. The goddess side doesn't really care, or they're not really focusing on that. And the reason why they're not focusing on that is because the goddess kind of has a one-track mind, and we'll come back to that anyway. But here we get this really ominous message. The humans are doomed, effectively. The reason why is, and he's saying that the goddess has left Celestia because of the overlord Mormus, who's able to defeat and seal a goddess away all on his own. So here is your big oh, first glimpse of the main bad guy. And the world's supposed to end because of Mormons. Anyway, then the man has a complete mood swing, and he gets incredibly mad because they've been killing monsters. Why have they been? Why is he mad that they've been killing monsters? Well, that's a little bit of a spoiler, so I won't reveal that for right now. So the girls just try to turn around and leave. I actually do think they may actually be successful. That's one of the very few dungeons where you don't have a monster boss that you have to fight. Here IF actually thinks that Historiar might be someone who's trapping Neptune into doing something bad, and that's not really a big thing because it plants this idea in the player's head, but don't worry about it. Historiar is or Histy, which is way easier to say, is actually a really good person. You don't have to worry about that. But Histy does actually give you an important piece of information in this conversation. Histy was sealed away by someone who she does not want to treat like a villain, which is kind of important. That means that it's someone that Histy was close to at one point in time. And she reveals the name R4. And that character is very important. Who the character is and why she is important to the game, I won't reveal now, but if you've played JRPGs before, you already know who she is effectively and what she has to do with the story. Anyway, after that point, the telepathic connection gets cut off, and that's the end of the conversation. And IF actually conjectures that the two are connected. But anyway, that's the overall plot information in this one. This is Suike Novus, enjoying what you guys do.